Rochelle Hamilton from Brown Hamilton Partners. This is part 2 of my series on family law, tax and accounting. If you didn't see my first video in this series, maybe go back and watch that first before you jump in here. Today I want to bring your attention to a couple of tax issues that should always be considered in the midst of a family law property settlement, but are often overlooked. Firstly, the DIY deal. If things are amicable between the parties, sometimes they want to save costs by not getting lawyers involved, and that's understandable. So they go the DIY route. The spouses agree on who will get what, and they go ahead and transfer the assets accordingly, and they do it themselves. What is often missed here are the capital gains consequences on the transfer of those assets. For example, say there's a share portfolio held jointly and one party decides to take on all of those shares and they do the transfers. Similarly with an investment property, this will trigger a capital gains tax event and potentially give rise to an unintended tax bill. There is family law CGT relief, but it only applies when the transfer is made under a formal process, that being a court order or a binding financial agreement. So you can see the DIY approach may generate an unexpected tax bill, resulting in significant tax and cash burden for one of the parties. Secondly, every asset has its own tax story. The family asset pool may include properties, investments and businesses, and you may know what asset you want, but you may not have considered the tax profile of that asset and how much tax it may cost you to access the value of that asset. I've seen people fixated in the heat of emotion on obtaining a particular asset in a family split, regardless of the poison chalice it may be with regard to future tax costs. A careful analysis of all the assets and the potential future tax obligations related to those are critical to ensure a fair settlement is agreed upon and you are not left in a structure that you can't afford to unwind. In summary, whether you plan to DIY or you have more complex structures, ensure tax is part of your property settlement equation by consulting with us before you go ahead and sign anything. If you'd like further assistance with this or you know someone who could be helped, please give us a call.